I have a ton of fun doing this stuff, so
Yeah,
let's just see where it goes.
that's it. Good organic conversation. Craig, great to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into leadership and your book and all of the good work that you're doing, I want to begin with this. 6 years ago, this pandemic changed so much about our lives. It was kind of a fork in the road. How did you get through that COVID era, and how has it influenced the way that you work and live today?
Well, it's interesting. We were at a really unique time in our lives as a family. We were, my kids were getting into college and in college, and it was really one of those times when we were all we were all happy and we were all out and we were all doing the things, young people in late in high school and early in college, their social lives are just full of things. My daughter was a highly competitive soccer player. Our lives were full of everything. And we made the weird decision to sell our big house and take a year in a condo downtown, easily accessible. And it was wonderful until we were in 1,000 square foot, 3 bedroom condo with 4 people going to school and working from it and a new puppy in the room. And I thought we were going to kill each other. There was really literally no place to go.
Yeah.
Um, but the fascinating thing was how simply, at least because I worked in tech all my life, it wasn't a big deal for us. I think it was a much bigger deal for a lot of other industries. I've had remote people reporting to me my entire life. I've worked from home on and off most of my career. I've worked for companies in the US, on the West Coast, and been here in the East Coast. And so that part of it wasn't that big of a deal for me. The big thing for us was the lack of socialization, the inability to just to see people and the feeling of almost guilt or shame when we would have family over.
Yeah.
And it was like, should you be doing this and stuff? And it was very weird. But from a working perspective, I think it was much harder on a lot of other people, like the kids in school who didn't graduate, all those sorts of things, like the proms that didn't happen, and the freshman years of students that they lost. I think that has had a much bigger impact on society than a dude that's my age who was kind of in the back half of his career and had been working at home for on and off for the last 15 years.
You're totally right, man. That's the way I've thought about this whole pandemic. It was really about the kids. And I work in education. I'm in technology. I'm a technician for a school district. My wife's a teacher. So we see the residuals, like that first class of kids that are now older that went through all of that. It was just, it totally jolted them. And I think for a lot of those other kids too, because yeah, for guys like us, we live most of our lives without masks and all of this. When we heard about pandemics, they were in the far off reaches of an Orwellian novel that we didn't think would ever be written in our lifetime. Right. And then,
100%.
I mean, it's like all of those weird dystopian notions that the grunge rockers would sing about. We're like, yeah, that's cute, but it's
Yeah.
it's not going to happen in our lifetime. But it did, you know.
Well, and I think back to then, we were all, late teens, early 20s when that all was happening. And
Yeah,
we were fighting the man and we were changing the world. And
of
the
course.
way that the generation before us was doing it just wasn't right. And we were angry because of the economic situation. And so that seemed like it seemed like it was a little dystopian at the time because of what was going on. But,
Sure.
hindsight being what it is, as we're talking here, it wasn't even close.
No,
It
we
wasn't
had
even close.
Yeah, we had no idea what was in
Yeah.
store. So let's get into the work that you're doing. I want to put you in front of 13-year-olds. It's career day, and the curious kid in the back of the room wants to know what you do for a living. Synthesize your day job to make sense to his brain.
Yeah, sure. So if I was talking to a 13-year-old, I'd simply describe it as these three things. One, I do workshop-based training, kind of like school, where I bring in leadership teams and new leaders to help them be better at what they do, learn skills they don't have, create better alignment together, work better together. So you think about a group project as a 13-year-old, when you get to adults and you go to work every day, the problems you have in your group project now still happen. And so I help smooth that stuff out. The other thing is, if you're a 13-year-old with a paper route and you're a little frustrated because someone's not paying you, or you don't have enough time to do it because you're trying to play sports, you need someone to talk to. That's what I do. Having spent 30 years working in technology companies and seeing all the things that go on in them, I'm the person that CEOs and founders get to talk to. And so as an entrepreneur, as a 13-year-old with your paper route, you need someone to talk to about your business. That's who I'm the person you talk to.
So what did you want to be at that age? What was your dream gig?
Oh, when I was 13, I, like most kids, I was playing soccer, so clearly I was going to go pro. I love music, so clearly I was going to join a band.
Yep.
Those sorts of things were always in my mind. I never really had some notion of being like a doctor or a police officer or a firefighter or anything. My father was in construction, so I learned that. I realized pretty quickly that that's probably not for me. But other than that, um, I was a daydreamer. Like I thought I could do anything, so I wanted to do the things that looked fun.
So take me back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised?
So I was born just outside of Toronto, small
Okay.
town called Waterloo. We're known for a couple of things. The biggest thing is if you've ever used the BlackBerry, it was created here.
Okay, that's right. I thought
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
familiar. Okay. Yeah.
So, but it's just west of Toronto. It's 60 miles west. Everybody who asks me, I say I'm from Toronto because it's so close. Um, but my life has been so interesting because I grew up in this small little town at the time when I was living. I mean, back in early days, it was less than 100,000 people. Um, it had it had then and still does had five large insurance institutions, two major universities, a community college, major manufacturing. There's a major Toyota and Lexus plant just down the road. So all the things that go around it, and all this tech, all these tech companies that had bubbled up, BlackBerry being the leader at the time. So it was this weird world where the economy never really crashed in my town because of the diversity of it. And I always had a good job, right? And the schools here are so good, ranked in the top, both in the top five in Canada. Waterloo being a world-renowned university, it was hard to leave. Um, and let's be honest, my parents didn't kick me out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I didn't leave until they decided to leave, right? Like, and it was easy. And it sounds weird, but it was easy because I always had a good job and I always had a good place to live and the economy here never really died. Even after BlackBerry's demise, when 13,000 people in the city stopped working there, the city didn't stop. It just spun into a whole bunch of other companies.
Yeah.
And those companies I've worked at have been awesome. I've traveled the world. I've been to so many of the states in the US because one of the companies I worked at was an education company, and guess what's everywhere? Learning.
Yeah. For sure.
So you go to weird places,
Yeah.
and it's fun. It's been fascinating.
What was one of the most fascinating places you visited? Unexpectedly magical. You didn't expect it to be like that.
So one of the places that surprised me the most was Cape Town in South Africa.
Okay.
I got to travel to South Africa as part of one of my roles because we had a large partner in Johannesburg, and there was an event that they were running, and I was headed there. But I got to go to Cape Town to meet them in their offices there, and it was very different than anything I had experienced in North America. But it's a town with mountains and ocean squishing together, a la Vancouver or Seattle. And it was a very vibrant community. The market center down around the harbor, all the markets in the city and all the people out. It was just fascinating to see, and how open and friendly the people were. But then at the same time, sitting at dinner with some relatives who happened to be there and had been living there for a while, the concern about how I was going to get home because it had gotten dark, which also was extremely interesting because as a North American, you don't think about those sorts of things in most cities. We're in the heart of the downtown, and I'm going 3 blocks to my hotel, and they're worried about calling me a taxi,
Wow.
right? And so just interesting, right? But the city is beautiful. Like I never expected. Like you think about Africa and you think a lot of things, but until you go, it's not. It was nothing of what I had anticipated.
the beauty of being able to do so many interviews is that I run into people all over the world. And I interviewed someone in Cape Town, and they were talking about what they were going to do, and they were talking about the ocean and the mountains. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I'm in Kansas City. I'm landlocked. There would be no way. He had a whole list of things that he could do there. I was like, I can't do one of those things here. Like, but there he could traverse all of these different aquamarine and land and terrain things, and it was amazing, you know. So, but I've heard there's a charm, there's a special way about South Africa that's different from any other place on the planet.
It's different. Yeah, like it's hard to describe. They're a very confident people, like, and but they're extremely engaging. But they have very similar traits to Americans and I would say Australians. They speak plainly.
Yeah,
Like there's no sugarcoating the words. There's no being Canadian like us and being a little diplomatic about things all the time, right? Like talking in riddles and being a bit passive aggressive sometimes. But it's elegant. Like it's not like it's abrasive.
yeah,
But they're a hardy group. Like living what they've lived through and what they've seen as a nation, I think has hardened them in ways that we don't understand
yeah,
nearly because we just don't have the same challenges here, at least not in our lifetimes.
yeah. So let me ask you this. Who's been your inspirational force that's allowed you to navigate through your career up to this point?
Well, so it's been different people through my life. When I was young, I was a typical late 80s, 90s kid. My parents loved me, but didn't have a lot of time for me, right? So, I mean, I learned a lot from my father about construction and how to build things and things like that. And I'm wildly thankful for that now that I'm older and the cost of things today to have that skill. But I think back to my early, I think back to high school is probably the first time when Mr. Wittig was my geography teacher and he taught world geography and he just had a way about him that made you get excited about what was going on in the world. And it was really probably the first time in my life I was like, well, there's something bigger than where I live. Like there's something bigger than Toronto because it
Yeah,
was the thing that we all used to go to. So he was probably the first person that opened my eyes to things. But as I've gotten older, I'm thankful for a lot of people. My dedication in my book is to two people who have helped me more in my career than I can ever thank. And one of them is a guy named Craig Walford. He's a local guy to me. He has done many things, but what he really helped me with was understanding um, what it means to be a leader. He told me, this is a we got a moment here. I'll tell you a quick story about how I really started getting learn from him. We were in a rapid growth situation. I mean, I took a team from 8 to 300 in less than 2 years.
wow.
And my own personal development was happening alongside that. And I had this moment where I was just like, not that I have hair to pull out, but I would have been pulling it out
Yeah,
because I couldn't figure it out. The people around me were smart, they were intelligent, they were trying hard, but they just didn't get it. I would get things and I would solve problems and they couldn't. And he pulled me into a meeting room one day, just a whiteboard and a marker. He says, Craig, you're not getting this. Like, you don't understand. And I'm like, okay, explain it to me. And this is what he did. He drew a triangle on that whiteboard and he put a little flag on top of it. And he said, this is Mount Everest. And then he drew a little stick man, little backpack. He goes, that's you. He says, and you're standing at the top of the mountain looking down. And he drew a whole bunch of people down at the bottom, little stick men, little backpacks. He says, you're yelling down at them, going, what the hell is taking you so long? You learned how to climb the mountain. But that's not your job. Your job is to be the Sherpa. Get back down to the bottom of the mountain and help each one of them up the mountain.
yeah,
That's your job now. So if you can't do that, you'll never be good at this.
yeah.
And it was like the light bulb going off. And like literally, if it was a cartoon, there'd be a huge light bulb that went off. Then it
Wow.
completely one of the moments in my life, as you can tell, I'll never forget because it completely changed how I viewed not just work, but life.
Yeah.
And so and
Yeah.
then I
No,
worked for
that's
another
interesting.
CEO who's a woman. Her name's
Yeah.
Carol Lehman, And then you ever been in one of these situations where you're working with someone and you're like, they're wildly successful. Like, what can I learn from them? And you're kind of like, and then you work with them for about 5 years, and afterwards you realize, oh man, they're so good at what they do. You don't even realize they're teaching you when they're doing it,
Yep.
right? And she was just so smart, but also two things that I will again have taken with me. One, you're only as good as the people around you, so let them be good at what they do. And we all like to talk about this, but she had this beautiful way of making it real. And the other one was how to communicate. This is a lost art, and I'm sure you see it in what you do. The ability for a human being to articulate their thoughts clearly so that it is understood by others is a set of skills that I think we're losing. And I talk a lot about it in my book, and I talk a lot about it to my customers, that this is one of the biggest gaps in organizations, is that lack of ability to be clear in what you're talking about. So sorry, I went off on a little tangent on you
No, I
there.
love it. No, 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 it's great. And what you did is you knocked a lot of dominoes down. So I'm curious, in your line of work between technology, between being around CEOs and leadership, if you could meet one person on the planet right now that you admire in any myriad of those ways, and you could have a lunch and talk to them, someone that might help you on your journey, who'd you love to talk to?
Do they have to be alive?
No, we can do a ghost.
Okay. I think I would like to meet um, Chamberlain. I would love to pick his brain.
Yeah,
Just the time he lived and the things he faced. I would love to know how he got up every morning and led
yeah,
the people he led. Like, I'd be very curious. Um, I don't think we have any understanding of how stressful that time in the world actually was.
yeah,
And to be the person in charge, I would say, of the Allied forces, I don't know.
yeah,
I think that would be fascinating.
yeah, it would be.
Like just fascinating. Like how did you process information? Like how did you I don't know. I don't even know the questions I would ask. I would just maybe start it with, could you tell me a couple stories?
Yeah. Well, I
Right?
think with people like that, they had to have gone through some level of trauma in their lives because there are people out there that are just good in high stress situations. It's like it calms them down. It's like their blood pressure goes down.
Mhm.
And probably when it's like tranquil and calm, their blood pressure goes up because they feel like they need to do something. It's just they're wired different, and it has to go back. But it is fascinating. Like even like New York City police,
Yeah.
like detectives and all of that, like what they see, the level of what they see and how they operate and they stay hopeful. It's amazing. Totally amazing.
You think about anybody like that. I have a good friend who's a nurse.
Yeah.
We have some weird conversations sometimes,
Yeah.
but I'm always thankful that she gets up every morning and goes to her job and likes it.
Uh-huh.
Like, we those of us who don't do those sorts of things have no context.
Yeah.
Like we have no understand, like we have a perception of what we think it is. And until you've lived through some stuff, and it's interesting that you talk about the idea that hard times, be it trauma or something that's happened to you, shapes who you are. I am a one, well, I'm an example of it, but I'm also clearly agreeing with that because um, I'm a person, I know this. When things get okay, I start looking around going, what's going on?
Right.
Like, something's not right here.
Like cattle in a field waiting for the tornado. Like, wait, why is it
Y-
so quiet?
Yeah,
It's great. I
absolutely.
I think about that with death. I've lost some animals and my wife will be like, you just seem like you're okay, you're calm. What's the matter? And it's like I lost my best friend when I was really young. I mean, I was 16, 17 and he used to hook up an IV when we were kids and he always had issues and I learned early on, but my whole idea after that is that there's just a part of my brain that is cognizant that I'm so much happier that those people existed or those animals existed in my life
Yes.
instead of, oh my God, they're gone because we're all going. We're all
Mhm.
we're all on a limited time here, right? Limited
Yeah.
time offer. And
Yeah.
we're not going to live forever, even Walt Disney, as much as he wanted to. So we just have to embrace what we got and who we've had in our lives. And that's the miracle of this life, is that we get those moments, we get those people and those things that come in, not that they're gone, because it's just inevitable. And
Well,
that's simple. That's a simplifying notion, but it's that notion too.
I completely agree. We like to your point, we all have an expiration date. We just don't know when it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And I think back on some of the things that have happened through my life, like loss for sure. I think, and here we are talking about this. I think everybody goes through this. I think some people have it worse than others, but yeah, it shapes you. Like you don't realize it when it's actually happening,
Right.
but afterwards, it does. It totally shapes you. And my kids hear this from me all the time. Life's hard. It's what you do with it that matters, right? Like when you start worrying and getting upset about the things that are happening to you, rather than thinking about how you're going to work through it, how you're going to move forward, it's when in my opinion, it's when you start losing.
Yeah.
So my kids roll their eyes all the time. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I know, life's hard," or somebody will be talking about something. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Uh-huh.
And my daughter especially is like, yeah, I know. It's a bridge crossing thing in the future. I get it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And they hear it enough and they'll remember it. That's it. All about repetition. So
Yeah.
speaking of kids, let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You walk into
Yeah,
a
yeah.
room, there's a film projector, you click play, and there's a 60-second highlight reel of this life you've lived.
No, not even close. At 18, I didn't have any grand illusions of what I might be. But I think back at this point in my life, I think back, how can I complain? I live in a country where we talk about first world problems on a regular basis. I have two wonderful adult children. I live in a home that is basically paid for. I have a property on the lake. We drive nice cars. I have a family that I see on the regular basis. I have good friends that I hang out with. I play golf as much as I can. I go to concerts whenever I can. What what more could I have? More money? Sure. We could all use a bit more of that. I've worked at some of the craziest companies. I've worked as with the companies that have customers like Walmart, Coca-Cola, Levi's, FedEx, Johnson and Johnson, Merck, Harvard, Oxford. I've been all around the world. Right? Like, no, I never thought I would go to South Africa or Australia, Costa Rica, Europe. Like, why would I ever go there as an 18-year-old, or why would I think I would go there?
Yeah.
So no, I don't think I could have ever imagined it would have been like that.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you in all these little bubbles of who we are. But you're the driving force. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I've had to think a lot about this lately. Um, and as I've continued to grow, and especially because I've started to write, I've got this book getting ready to be published. Um, my perception of myself is it's weird. Um, I love to help people, and it's why I do what I do. But sometimes I over help, if you get what I mean, because I'm running a business, and sometimes I forget I'm running a business, and it's not always a good thing. Um, but at the same time, I'm about as pragmatic as it gets. Like I'm a realist, like a true realist, and it's hard sometimes because I can see things others don't want to see, and there's an internal struggle constantly in my mind about, do I tell them? How do I, if I do, how do I do it? Like these sorts of things. And so being this kind of person, been repeatedly told I can see through complexity really, what seems easily, and create clarity from it, which I do know is true, but it's not who I think I am. It's the helper that it's why I've written this book. It's why I run the business I run. It's why I talk to people like you. I don't know who's heard this or who will hear this, but if they're better for it, I think it's a good thing.
So all of this was a precursor to your book, The Walk, which is in pre-order mode right now. So what I'm going to ask of you is to take your prowess as a storyteller, as a man of the world, to give me the elevator pitch. Sell the book. Why should people buy The Walk?
Very easily. One, it's called The Walk because it was all started by me walking my dog named Winston. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I've read a lot of books about leadership and they're theoretical and academic. If you're someone who's leading people and you just want to know practical strategy and executable things that you can do to be a better leader, this book's for you. It's built on story after story of lived experience, and it's taken from the practical approach of building a set of skills over time, because this is, to me, the biggest gap in all leadership. We don't build the skills. We think we're born with it, and it's just not true.
So we're going to climb into the time capsule again, and I'm going to ask you, in honor of the vinyl you have behind you and all of the memories you've ignited in my brain like fireflies on a summer sky, if you could go back and see one concert, where are you going? Who are you going to see? Where are you going?
Oh, if I could go back, I think there was in Toronto, Pearl Jam played with Soundgarden just after they both released by Motorfinger and 10. And that is a concert I think I would go see in a
That's
heartbeat
that's
over and
crazy.
over again.
That's crazy. Yeah, that would be absolutely wonderful. Um, there was a friend of my wife's that was she lives right outside of an amphitheater here in Kansas City called Starlight, and she listened to the entire Soundgarden show, the last Soundgarden show they put on before Cornell went and unfortunately passed.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so many memories, man, of that era and that time. But that would have been it, because it would have been completely, because no one, people knew, but they didn't know. Because until you see them perform live and feel
Hmm.
it, and then all of them together, and we know the super groups that came out of that era too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's
Like I think back to like one of the Lollapaloozas I was at, and Rage Against the Machine had just come
mm,
out and they were playing it. And the energy in the audience, you could feel it. Like it was like humans so excited and just into like, and the songs were so meaningful but so raw, like that it just reverberated through the entire audience. And it was one of those weird things where you think being in that mosh pit would be dangerous, but it wasn't.
no.
People knew who was around them and they were
Uh-huh.
making sure people didn't get trampled on and they got picked up. And if someone got thrown up into the air, there were 17 people underneath them to make sure they got caught. Like it was crazy like that, but everybody was having such a good time. Things like that. The other thing I think about at that time, lots of small bars and clubs playing
Yeah.
unbelievably crazy good bands.
Yep.
Like I just think back to some of the small bars and clubs. Being in a university town, we got a lot of bands come through,
Yeah.
and they would play 100-person sites, 50 people bar, like crazy bands that you look at today, they've sold millions and millions and millions of albums,
Yeah.
and they were just playing in a bar,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I mean, I remember seeing Ben Folds that he did like four encores in a little college town outside of Kansas City called Lawrence, where the University of Kansas
Yeah,
is at.
I've been there. I just yeah, I
Oh,
know.
okay. So
Yeah,
he did four encores. On his fourth encore, I was just telling my wife this the other day. He sang Video Killed the Radio Star in Japanese. He was out of his head, just
that's
banging on the piano.
insane.
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, and then Easy E from the Eels, they
Yeah.
played years ago, and I remember everybody thought the club was closed down. They had a Coltrane trap. My Favorite Things was playing. Everybody was milling around, and all of a sudden you hear these footsteps, and they came downstairs and got back up there, and it was just the time, man. What a magical. We would have never thought then, because we thought about the 60s from our generation. That was the time.
Hmm.
Those
Yeah,
were the
yeah.
memories. But now that we're seeing these documentaries come out and they're heralding that era, it was like a reincarnated version of the 60s. We were literally all on the precipice of wanting to change the world world. There was
Yeah.
angst. There was good music. There was art. We were in the middle
Yeah.
of the soup, man.
It was crazy. Well,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. One of my favorite venues in Toronto is a little place called the Horseshoe Tavern, and it is what it is. It's a tavern.
Yeah.
It's a long bar, and then in the back room there's a stage. Like this is the kind. It's awesome. I didn't even know this, but this week Shania Twain played it,
Wow.
and she played it, and when she got up, when she was coming up, she got famous really fast. And when she was growing up, it was a place she always wanted to play as a musician
Wow.
because it's one of those places. If you're in Toronto, you've been to a show there and you know what it's like. And it's a tavern with a room in the back, like literally.
Yeah.
And so she went back and played it this week for, I think the total attendance, they jammed it, was less than 500 people. I think it was
Wow.
like about 300 people.
Yeah.
Like, and you think about that, that's because she grew up in that era,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Like she's like us. She remembers, like, and artists I think are starting to remember that experience. It's just hard to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Mumford and Sons came through Toronto and played like a 350, 400 person
Wow. Yeah.
facility, Massey Hall, but you couldn't get tickets.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just like you just couldn't get them.
Yeah. That's wild, man. That's stuff. That's where the memories are. So before time runs out here, I want to make sure that we
Yeah,
get
yeah.
in here and we get everything covered. So if anybody wants to pre-order the walk, they want to reach out, they hire you, any of the good business, where do they go?
It's really easy. CraigAWall.com.
Okay.
There's a link to my pre-order there, my details and my services. It's really easy. Just put an A between my first and last name and put the .com on the end, and you're gonna find me.
Okay. Wonderful. So great to meet you, man. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking the minute out today. And before